The battle at Gettysburg happens in July of 1863. This is going to be a 3-day battle that turns into being the deadliest battle of this war. Again, it's stretched over a period of 3 days. This battle is so deadly that even today you can go to that battle site and still find artifacts from this battle, even today. So there was just a tremendous amount of death and destruction that happened here. This is one of only a few times that Robert E. Lee invades the North. And when he does, his men are going to encounter the Union, and along these two different locations, Little Round Top and Cemetery Ridge, um, followed by Pickett's charge. Really, this is not going to go very well. Robert E. Lee is defeated, and when this happens, this becomes a major turning point of the war because after this battle, Robert E. Lee never has enough strength and power to ever invade the North again. So from here on out, he's not in retreat just yet, but he never has enough manpower to really make that push into the North again. So this is seen as one of the major turning points of the war. Just a few months later, there was so much death and destruction here. Abraham Lincoln is going to give that famous speech, the Gettysburg Address, when they are turning this into a national cemetery because of all that death and destruction. It was that very, very famous speech where it was very, very brief, but very, very powerful, where he talks about all of those who had died fighting for this country. Another major turning point that we see, it also happens in July of 1863, is when Ulysses S. Grant is going to capture Vicksburg. Remember, they have now finally accomplished that part of the Anaconda Plan where they split the South. This is huge, and again, seen as another one of those turning points of this war because of the fact that they are able to split the South. Abraham Lincoln was just extremely frustrated with George McClellan. And he did not like the fact, he didn't think that McClellan was aggressive enough. In fact, he said he had the slows. McClellan was always saying he just needed 10,000 more men or just needed a little more time. And Abraham Lincoln really didn't want that. He wanted an end to this war, and he wanted it ended quickly. So this is when he's going to call Ulysses S. Grant to command the Union armies. So that's going to replace George McClellan. William Tecumseh Sherman is going to be put in charge of what comes to be known as Sherman's March. His march to the sea is going to start in Atlanta, Georgia, and marches to the coast, and he destroys basically everything in his path. He is going to use a method of war called total war, where you basically fight until the military and economy of your enemy is completely destroyed. They would go through, take anything that they could use, and then burn and destroy everything. They burned major cities, Atlanta, which is what you see here, and basically every town that they came through as they marched to the sea and then made their way back up towards Richmond, Virginia. They burned it and destroyed it. That whole quote, war is hell. And he wanted to be sure that he took that to the people in burning the actual civilian parts of these cities. He was attempting to destroy the will of the people to fight. The war had been going on for a long time now, and he did not want the people to be willing to fight anymore. So this is going to be really major when it comes to ending this war. It was brutal, but that was the point, was to end this war. So again, those armies, they take what they can use, destroy everything else, including the railroads, including all of the agriculture, the farms, the houses, everything. So this was going to be part of that plan. By 1864, Robert E. Lee was in retreat and basically being chased by Ulysses S. Grant and the Union Army. Grant is going to continually attack Robert E. Lee, and what's key here to remember is that Grant is losing men. He is losing thousands upon thousands. However, the real morbid truth here was that Grant and the Union had the population, they had the numbers to replace those men, to replace those soldiers. But at this point in the war, the Confederates could not replace all of the thousands of men they were losing. In fact, the Confederates were so desperate by the end of the war that they were actually even discussing arming their slaves to fight the Union. So this shows you how desperate they were because of their great loss in numbers. So again, the Union was attacking. They were losing thousands of men, but those men, they could replace those men with more soldiers. The South could not. And again, they're doing this because Lincoln wants to basically just end this war and get it over with. He was tired of this thing dragging out. And it is eventually going to end. In April of 1865, Ulysses S. Grant has surrounded Robert E. Lee just outside of Richmond, Virginia, and the two of these men are going to meet. And Ulysses S. Grant accepts the surrender of Robert E. Lee at Appomattox Courthouse. You see Robert E. Lee here on the left, Ulysses S. Grant on the right, and it is going to end right there at Appomattox. So this war ends in April of 1865.